Hello, this is testing on this new camcorder I got. Just want to show a little bit of what I've been working with. What we have here is my Colt walker, made by Armi San Marco. You see these little pieces down here? These are called a bolt, and originally that smaller piece was attached to the larger piece. See, like that. The replacement piece in here okay, I haven't taken it out of the pack yet. It's going to be doing that here shortly, but what you got here, it's kind of a fork shaped piece, and what it does is when you draw the hammer back, okay, you see the little notch, the groove to the right on the tang. There's what's called a cam that's on the hammer, and it will follow that when you draw the hammer back to the first notch, leaving the cylinder stop recessed enough for the cylinder to rotate. And then when the cam is like a wedge, basically wedge shaped, that when the hammer goes back far enough, this is on a spring, it'll pop past this little groove and sling back up and stop the cylinder from moving in full cock position. So when you fire, this will stay in that position, holding the cylinder in line with the barrel, so the bullet will go down the barrel. Okay, now I'm going to be replacing both the piece, the actual cam they call it, on the back of the hammer. You can't see it until I take it apart, but when you bring this back to that cock, it's holding the cylinder stop right here out of the way so you can rotate the cylinder. Okay, and then when you bring it back to full cock, the cylinder's locked. Okay, and it's in line with the cap. And then when you go to full trigger, full fire, it's locked up. Now, as you see, I got my little mallet, needle nose, various screwdrivers, nipple wrench, pliers, files, breech grease, which I'll use for, all the grease that would go on any of the moving parts. The heavy moving, I'll put that, and then the light moving will just be light gun oil, steel wool, and cleaning patches. But I just wanted to see how this camera was going to start working, so I had an idea of a starting place on doing videos now with this. So I don't know how it works and how it sounds. I'm just playing with it right now. So have a nice day, and we'll talk to you in a bit. Alright, okay, I got the parts. We need a look on here. Okay, you see that little dention right there? This hammer has already got the wedge on it. This is a cam that's already mounted on this. Now, as you see this a little better, okay, and compared to the old one, you can see that they are definitely quite different, even the configuration of the shape. Alright, now I've got one in that's like the top one that you see there that I modified, and it works. Okay, it's not from an Armi San Marco, it's from a Uberti, or for Uberti Walker Colt. This one here is also for a Uberti. I've got one coming from a for an Armi San Marco, So if this doesn't quite do the trick, then I'll put that other one in. Okay. Now, like I said, this is an Armi San Marco. Okay. And this company is out of business. Okay. Now, I got it for a good enough price, like I said in the last video, so I'm not too concerned with, you know, screwing around with it. My wife is, because I'm buying all these parts, but anyway. Knock out the wedge pin. Doesn't have to go all the way out. A lot of people are wondering, this little screw that's on the side here, I don't know if you can see it any better. No. Okay. There's a little screw on the side. Turn my light on. There. It's on the side by the wedge pin. Okay. Now that little piece basically keeps the wedge from coming all the way out. And again, if it's worked in, it's been used a little more, this wedge pin should be able to be pushed by your thumb, pulled out to this point, separate the barrel from the rest of the frame. If it's a little bit stuck, like after you've been firing it with the hammer in half cock, yeah, go figure. Alright, make a liar out of Lincoln. Alright. That's what I figured. Alright. Don't want to waste all my minutes on here. Had to knock the wedge pin back in because I forgot to take it out of half cock. I put it in half cock to be able to disassemble it. Okay. But like I was starting to say, if this is stuck, rotate the cylinder between chambers and use the loading lever to basically separate the barrel from the frame. You'll have to excuse me first time with this new camera. Okay. I've got a bunch of grease on here already. I think I might have put a little bit more than I really needed to, but no sense being sorry than be safe. Okay, when you're disassembling, okay, loosen the screws on the hand grip first before completely dismounting the hand grip. Okay. Same with reassembly. When you start the screws, don't drive them all the way in, or you'll have a problem with aligning the other screws. And that goes with most assembly of anything mechanical. if you put the screws in one spot and tighten them down, by the time you get to the other side, it may not line up. Because in most manufacturing, they allow a little bit for tolerances that wouldn't be quite the best if it was, you know, perfectly machined. Then the screw would go in one place, and that's it. Now, this side here is under spring tension. Okay, that's something a lot of people aren't explaining. Hold the frame. Hold the frame with your finger against the trigger guard, because it's under spring pressure, and you can't relieve the spring like you can on a 1860 or any of the other percussion revolvers, because this spring here is just mounted on a tang as opposed to actually screwed on the bottom of the trigger guard. Not like it's going to come flying apart, but a little less on the wear on the brass when you're driving the screws out. Okay. Now the rest of this just lifts off. As you see, this spring mounts on the tang on the back of the hammer. Okay, I've got a trigger spring, and like I said, the other bolt is in here. So the only thing I'm going to do right now is change out the hammer with the cocking lever, or the rotating lever for the cylinder. Mainly because the spring on my lever is, for lack of a better word, sprung. As you see, the spring actually came out of the loading lever itself. So yes, it's a good idea that I'm doing that. Okay, here's the new one. Like I said, it's already got same as this piece, but this is machined into it. This hammer here, okay, with the cam, is driven through. You can see where the dowel actually was machined to fit in here, and I have removed it and cleaned it up where it was working to a degree, but not quite the way it's supposed to. Okay. And in one assembly, when you install this, the spring fits into the little slot to hold the cylinder stop and the cylinder. Well, so far I see there is a problem. Apparently the hammer on this is a little bit snugger . A little more snug than the other one. As you see, that's actually binding inside the hammer. So, you don't want to break the screw either. You want to have to try to open up this hole that the screw goes into. Like I said, we're talking about Uberti parts in an Armi San Marco. Okay. what I'll do, actually, so yeah, it even took a little of that down, but I don't want to take a lot off. I don't want to make it sloppy. I want to be able to use the other hammer if I absolutely need to. Ideally with some emery paper, probably be a little more efficient. Rather tight in there, so I'm gonna have to bring this down a little bit. Just don't want to mess up the threads either. Hold this a little more firmly. Don't want to screw up the screw either. There, just about right. Somebody should have said something. I was grabbing the wrong hammer. That ain't bad. I can live with that. Okay. You see on these pinholes, this one here is the actual pivot bolt. This one here is for the cylinder spring. Hello, Judy. Okay. Where were we? Was mounting the pivot pin to the hammer, and mounting the hammer. going to put a little anti-seize on this bolt. Okay, you can see down inside here is where the bolt comes up through, right there. Okay, half cock, it's recessed. Full cock, it's up where it's supposed to be to hold the cylinder in place. When you fire it, it stays in place and holds the cylinder up, or holds the cylinder in that position. Half cock is safe, and to spin the cylinder to be able to cap it, that looks like it took care of the issue. My next concern will be timing. Yeah. Let's get the rest of this housing back together first. Like I said, now the spring, now on the other ones there is a screw that holds the spring. You loosen the spring, you depress it and move it out of the way. Easy enough to disassemble. These is a little different, where you have to actually mount the spring under the hammer as you're holding it, and that's why I was saying holding the frame and the trigger guard, because these holes are not lining up. And just start the screws. Just enough to hold it in place. That's not getting too tight, just enough to hold that down as far as it's supposed to be. But the trigger guard's still relatively loose. Okay, now you can feel the brass and the steel from the frame, and before you tighten it down you want to make it feel flush, so you don't have to be perfectly perfect, but it's by feel that you get it good and snug, and the frame lines up with the trigger guard. Again, not a real big deal, but it makes the assembly a little neater, a little cleaner. Okay, now I got the hammer on the spring and the trigger guard, half cock, recessed, full cock, exposed. And its action's working really nice and smooth, just like it's supposed to. Okay, handle, again. Just start the screws so that they're lined up. But you still have some slop to be able to line the bottom hole with the screw. If you tighten the other ones, it may not quite line up right. You might get lucky and it'll be right on the money, but chances are it won't be. Yeah, in parts I'm probably up just about as much as it would have been if I would have bought a whole brand new Uberti from Cabela's or Taylor and Company. But got this one for $190. It hasn't been shot. The only problem with it was the problem with it not holding the cylinder with the cylinder bolt. Okay, again, bring it back to half cock. Install the cylinder. Install the barrel. Press the wedge. Now you don't want to put the wedge in too tight. You want to put it in just tight enough where there is no end play from the cylinder. You have too much end play and you're going to be losing a bunch of powder coming out the side when it's firing. But if you get it too tight, the cylinder is hard to rotate. It's a little bit snug right now, but like I said, it's never been fired. Full cock, and it's locked in, and we're already having a problem. I think that's going to be back to that problem with this, because on this one here it has been timed where it's been shaved down just a bit on the tip. So release that a little bit. And that's where the problem is. So anyway, you got the general idea, and I'll have to take it back apart and retime by shaving this a little bit so that when it's in full cock it is in the right same time that it locks the cylinder in the perfect clock. So thank you, and we'll talk to you again. Okay, I got the thing, the walker, put back together, and it's functioning. I'm still a little bit off on the timing. Right back, first notch, and the cylinder will rotate. Bring it back, full cock, it's locked up. Okay, locked up in battery. Okay, now here's where the problem is. Rotate. If I come back just a little bit more, hear the click, that's the bolt falling in. It's holding the cylinder, but it's not cocked. I have to go back a long ways further for it to be ready to fire. Now, there was a video by Midway USA on timing a Smith & Wesson. Of course, it's a way different firearm than an old reproduction Colt revolver, but as far as in their description, the timing is only supposed to be as far as where the bolt engages the cylinder, not very more than like a 1/16 of an inch of movement of the hammer prior to full cock. So the way this is right now, it'll work fine. The timing is fine. It's holding the cylinder in battery perfectly in alignment. Okay, but problem I'm having is if I didn't come all the way back, the cylinder is not in full alignment. Full cock it is, okay? But I can hear the cylinder snap come up, and the way these bolt notches in the cylinder are is they have no lead on them. They're perfectly oval with no little lead before them, so that the cylinder, as it rotates, when the bolt comes up, will leave a scoring mark around the cylinder as it rotates. And it's starting to come back from when I first got it, and I re-blued it and took care of it. But I'm waiting for the proper Uberti parts, or I'm sorry, the proper Armi San Marco parts to come in to make this actually perfectly functional. The action is a little bit sticky, like right in first safety cock and loading cock for the caps and for the percussion balls. The action is a little bit sticky in that part, but when it comes back to full cock, it's perfectly smooth. It fires in perfectly smooth fashion. I believe I can use this without any problem. I don't think there will be a problem, but I have other parts coming, and I will modify this to make it as close to perfect as me, as an amateur gunsmith, can do. If it gets to the point where I can't handle it, yeah, I'll have to take it to another professional to take care of actually timing it perfectly. But again, there we're coming into more money. It'll be a matter of, is it worth it, or should I just buy a whole nother firearm that's in perfect condition and just use this nice looking Colt Walker as a wall decoration or as a parts gun. It is in nice condition. Like I said, it has never been fired, but the way it is right now, it will be able to be used. The cylinder is locked up. There is no problem about being out of time at this moment. There is a basics that of all revolvers, that when you bring them into half cock, okay, never ever return the hammer to battery without first going to full cock and then releasing the hammer. The reason being is when you're in half cock, the bolt that's inside the action is still engaged with the hammer, and if you return this back, since the hammer is only sitting on the hand, or the cylinder is sitting on the hand in the half cock position, as you see, the cylinder rotates. But if you send this back early, okay, what's going to happen is that the bolt will be up against the cylinder and will leave more gouges or scratches and cause more wear on parts that are prone to wearing anyway, and you don't want more wear quicker than you would. So bring it back to full cock on any revolver that has a half cock position. My Raging Bull does not have a half cock position. So just as a little tidbit that everybody can go by. Thank you for watching my videos. Please share, recommend if you can, if you'd like, dislike, and put some comments if you'd like down below, and I'll put links to parts and such that I've done on the Walker. Any questions about anything, don't be afraid to ask. I'll help you the best I can. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.